this lesson, we're going to be discussing percents and decimals. And I have up here the prompt, what does percent mean? As we have been discussing, percent means out of 100. So we're going to write percents as decimals and decimals as percents. So in our first example, example 1, writing percents as decimals. If you have 47% and want to write that as a decimal, you would write it as 4700. In B, if you have 75 and 5/10% and you want to write that in a decimal, you're going to write that as 0.755. In C, I have 2%, and you're asked to change that to a decimal. That would be 0.02. Now notice when we go from a percent to a decimal, we are actually moving the decimal to the left 2 places because it's out of 100. So in each of these examples, we have moved the decimal in the percent to the left 2 places. In example 2, now we're prompted to write a decimal as percent. So if I have 34 hundredths as a decimal in a percent, that would be 34%. B, 4 hundredths is the same as 4%. And C, 578 thousandths is the same as 57 and 0.8%. Now notice when we are changing from decimals to percent, we're moving the decimal place to the right 2 places. Now I have 9 examples here. You're asked to write the percent as a decimal or the decimal as a percent. Let's work these and we'll come back and check our answers. Okay, in each of these, just check your work depending upon if you went to a decimal or to a percent, which way you move the decimal point. You can also write a fraction as a percent by changing the fraction to a decimal, then the decimal to a percent. So in example 3A, we're going to change that fraction to a decimal. Now, even though you can do this in your head, we're going to go ahead and show how to change that fraction to a decimal. In A, 1/4. That is the same as 1 divided by 4. So, 1/4, if we were asked to change that fraction to a percent, we have 25 hundredths up there after we divide. Now, move the decimal 2 places, and it is 25%. So, in our example B, so 5 divided by 6, going to go out 4 decimal places. So you'll see in this example that 5 out of 6, when divided, you notice that the 3 repeats. So we are going to write that as 83.3% with a bar notation over the 3. Okay, notice writing fractions as percent. This symbol is read approximately equal to. It indicates that a result has been rounded and is not exact. So we're going to do some exercises involving the symbol. In C and D, the instructions say round to the tenths place, take the division out 4 places. So, in this problem, we're going to see what the percent is, 3 out of 7. So we're going to divide, and we're going to take it out 4 places. Now, as you can see, this is going to continue to go on and go on and go on. So, our instructions tell us to take it out 4 places and to round to the 10th place in order to determine what the percent is. So, from decimal, we're going to change it to percent. So, we're going to move it 2 places over. And then, since we're rounding to the 10th place, my 8 is going to look at the 5. So 3 out of 7 is going to be approximately 42 9/10%. Now, since I'm rounding it to the nearest 10th place, for the percent, I just took it out 4 decimal places. Now I'm going to move the decimal 2 places, and it'll end up here. The 2 is going to look at the 8. So this 9 out of 4 will be approximately 64 3/10%. Rewriting small and large percents. A video store carries 0.8% of their videos in foreign languages. The store increased their inventory of DVDs by 500%. Write these percents as decimals. So note, we move the decimal 2 places to the left to change each of these percents to decimals. In 1, 2, 3, and 4, you are to write the fraction as a percent, round to the nearest 10th of a percent. Refer back to your 2 previous examples to work these out. While I pause the video, we'll come back and check to see if your answer is correct. Okay, so note in each one of these, we took it out 4 decimal places because the prompt was for you to round it to the nearest 10th of a percent. So after you divide it, you got a decimal. Then move the decimal place 2 places to the right, and then round it. 1/6 is approximately 16.7%. 7/9 is approximately 77.8%. 6/7 is approximately 85.7%. And number 4, 9 out of 13 is approximately 69.2%. In these exercises, write the percent as a decimal and come back and check what you put down. Again, going from a percent to a decimal, move it to the left. Going from a decimal to a percent, move it to the right, the decimal. Using a percent less than 1%. In chemistry, a chemical solution in a container has a volume of 85,000 milliliters. The solution contains 0.04% saline. How much of the solution is saline? So you set up 85,000, and if it contains 0.04% of it is saline, multiply it. If you'd like to also just take 85,000 and multiply it times 4, then move the decimal place to the left 4 places, because that's how many decimal places are in the factor. You can do that as well. So the answer is 34 milliliters. Last example. The enrollment at Little Angels Preschool last year was 50 students. This year, the enrollment is 220% of last year's. How many students enrolled this year? So in this example, we were trying to determine what is 220% of 50. Change that percent to a decimal and multiply.